Hey boys and girls, I'm taking a look at number 3 on our quiz 1 review from today, and it says draw a number line from 0 to 1 to represent the set of numbers. So these are the numbers that we have, all the different fractions that we have to put on the number line. And right away when I'm looking at these fractions, I'm noticing that they all have different denominators. And I'm also noticing that the denominators can't all be equal to each other. So I'm going to start with just using what I know about fractions and using all those benchmark fractions to start my number line. So if I'm between 0 and 1, right away I know that I can put 1/2 in the middle. So I can go ahead and cross that fraction out. Now the next one that I'm working with, I think is the easiest to do, is going to be 3/4, because then I can split up my halves into more halves. And then I have 1/4 here. I know that this is equal to 2/4, and then I have 3/4 right there on the number line. So now that I put my 1/4 there, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to erase this because I don't need that there anymore. So the next thing that I have is 8ths, and I know that 8ths are half of 4ths. So I'm going to take all of my intervals and I'm going to split them in half again. So now I have 1/8 here. I know this would be equal to 2/8. This one would be 3/8. This would be 4/8, which I know is a half. This one would be 5/8, which is exactly what I need right there for 5/8. I'm going to go back through and erase this one here. Okay, go here. And I just realized I wasn't representing the number, so I'm going to go back through and put my bullets where they need to go. I also just realized that I have 3/8 over here that needs to go on the number line, so I'm going to represent my 3/8 with that bullet too. So the next thing I have left is 2/3 and 5/6. So I know that thirds and sixths are equal to each other, but I have to figure out how am I going to split my number line so that it's into thirds and sixths. Okay, I'm going to start by working with this 2/3. I know that 2/3 is greater than 1/2 because half of 3 is 1.5 and 2 is greater than that. So I know that the number is going to have to be somewhere on this side of our number line. So I'm looking at my 1/2, my 5/8, and my 3/4, and I have to compare these numbers to figure out where exactly my 2/3 is going to go. So I'm going to start by just comparing 2/3 to 3/8, or I'm sorry, to 5/8. Okay, now in order to compare those numbers, I have to find a common denominator. So through all of our factor work that we've been doing, I know that the first common multiple of the 3 and the 8 is going to be 24. So I'm going to set them both equal to 24. 8 times 3 gets me to 24, so 5 times 3 is going to get me to 15. And then 3 times 8 gets me to 24, so 2 times 8 is going to get me to 16. Wow, so by setting those two equal to a common denominator, I realized that 2/3 is really close to 5/8, but it's also greater. So I'm going to go right here, super close. I'm going to actually erase that one. I'm going to go even closer because it's 24ths. I'm going to make my line here and I'm going to put 2/3. And it's okay if it's on the top, if your number is on the top or the bottom of the number line. That does not matter. So now we need to figure out where our 5/6 is going to go. And I know that 6 is also a factor of 24. So I'm going to actually just set it up to compare it to the 5/8 again. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to find my eraser here. So now we have 5/6. And I'm going to set this equal to 24. And I know 6 times 4 is going to get me to 24. So then 5 times 4 is going to get me to 20. So I know now that the 5/6 is going to be It's greater than 2/3, and it's also greater than 5/8. So I want to compare it to this 3/4. So I'm going to set this equal to 24. And I have 18. So now I know that 5/6 is going to be greater than 5/8, but less than 3/4. So that means that on my number line, it's going to go like right over here. And then we have 5/6. And then we're going to represent it with our dot right on the number. Those of you who are having a hard time with this one in class, I want you to just remember all of the different unit benchmarks that you've been learning in math. And when you get to situations like with our 6th and with our 3rds that were a little bit difficult, you have to go back to comparing fractions. And you're going to want to compare it to one of the other numbers that you've already put on your number line so you can figure out exactly where that fraction goes. Hope that helps. Keep up the great work.